we see Boston is turning it on at the right time. They played Memphis and they beat Memphis, and this is the new look Grizzlies with Taylor Jenkins fired and stuff. And you look at John Morant's numbers, they look all good, but they're 0-2. And I don't think it was his fault that they lost yesterday. The shooting was just abysmal. They shot 25% from three, but there was an article that came out this morning that highlighted basically what had happened. And Taylor Jenkins in the offseason, he was asked to basically slash his entire coaching staff, to bring in 2 assistants, which is the current interim head coach, Iasalo, and then it was this other assistant head coach that they brought in as well. And his name, I'm trying to find it right here, his last name is Roche. And basically it was his offensive system that they implemented the entirety of the season. And the offense at first was working. Memphis was one of the best teams in the NBA. Draymond Green complimented the offense because it was something that he had never seen before. But you look at John Morant this year, career low in touches, average touch length, and dribbles per touch. And Kleiman, the GM of the Grizzlies, insisted that Jenkins remove the 5 assistants that he had on the staff to make way for the salary of these 2 new assistants, because their salaries were way up there when we talk about assistant coaches' salaries. So Jenkins, once the Grizzlies started struggling in March around there, he upticked the amount of on-ball screens and dribble handoffs they used, and that's when John Morant started playing better. They went up to 59.8 per game, but they were 6 and 7 when John Morant played post All-Star break. So even leaning into that type of offense didn't get them the best results. We saw the clash that Bane and Aldama had, and I don't think Taylor Jenkins was the perfect head coach, but I think that from the beginning, Memphis had a plan to move on from him, bringing in 2 assistants and telling him to basically gut his entire coaching staff that he had built up with this organization. And John Morant now going from playing off the ball to being in the pick and roll much more and feeling like himself. The interim head coach, Isalo, he wants to incorporate more on-ball screens to kind of help John Morant find his rhythm. But my gripe with it is I don't think John Morant can be the best player on a championship team. It's hard for a guard to be that number one. We've only seen that from Stephen Curry, especially at that size being 6'3". But this is another thing. John Morant has a crazy play style that's fun to watch, but he just averages for his career 0.99 points per direct pick and roll as a ball handler in his career when he's using an on-ball screen. That ranks 39th among 56 players to run at least 5,000 on-ball screens as the ball handler since the 1920 season. And he also has a 44.7% EFG on jumpers when coming off on-ball screens in his career.
Not shocking.
Only Russell Westbrook has been worse among 111 players to take at least 750 jumpers when coming an on-ball screen since the 1920 season. John Morant isn't an efficient pick and roll ball handler for an offense, so the use of all these on-ball screens when it's really not a consistently efficient source of offense, and the lack of jump shooting is a major question mark. I don't think John Morant has gotten better over the last 2 years.
He just hasn't played a lot, but I hear what you're saying.
But
even today, yeah.
He hasn't gotten better. We've been waiting for that jump shot to improve, and it hasn't improved. And I think Memphis, it's clear that John Morant being frustrated with the offense and Taylor Jenkins had a play and had a hand in Taylor Jenkins getting fired. And I just think picking a star player like John Morant over a head coach who's shown you to have success, I'm not even mad that they fired Taylor Jenkins. Just the fact that if this is your direction with John Morant and you're banking on him to reach his potential, I just think you're weighing on something that's not going to happen.
He's changed their franchise, though. That's the reason why I can understand putting the chips in his basket.
What has he changed?
I mean, as soon as he went there, they became a playoff team.
They were a playoff team before then. They just had a rebuilding period for like a year.
Agreed, and then he came and he elevated their ceiling and understanding.
But we're not going to talk like this franchise was bad. They made the conference finals.
I mean, their ceiling was always very limited.
Their ceiling right now is limited,
and I don't disagree with that. Which is why them going to and bringing in these assistants, trying to bring in this new offense, and albeit while they've installed this new offense, John Morant has been playing better, but it hasn't resulted in many wins. You could also pair that with the fact that Jaren Jackson also was coming back from injury and we wasn't playing at 100%. We've seen the ups and downs of Desmond Bane. We've seen the ups and downs of Santi Aldama. I think that this is a team that we've all collectively understood. Let me not say all, because my brother over there, who usually sits there, was very high on him that they couldn't have made a run. We understand that their ceiling is very limited, but this is a team that has a core that has future behind it. John Morant's still very young. Jaren Jackson's still very young. Desmond Bane's still very young. And I can understand the fear of John Morant because of his injury history and, of course, the off-the-court stuff that thankfully hasn't been an issue this year that we don't, knock on wood, we don't have to worry about it from here on out. But we've seen how high he can get to, especially come playoff time. He is a great playoff performer in the limited amount of time that we've seen him there, but he also has raised the ceiling for the Grizzlies. And I can understand you are a small market team. We don't come by John Morant's very often. I'm going to choose the player over a coach. And that makes sense to me.
Yeah, I think John Morant, it's tough. I think Taylor Jenkins' situation is tough too, because I think we all agree that John Morant's probably not going to be the best player on a championship team, right? I think number one, it's very difficult to find that, but John Morant's a flawed player, right? It's going to be very hard for a guard to lead a championship team, let alone a flawed guard.
He's not efficient in the pick and roll.
Yeah,
I feel like that's the number one thing you have to be efficient in when you're a point
really
guard.
good
He's
playmaker.
It's just
the shot selection, I think, is the biggest issue sometimes.
Yeah, and I think part of that could even be his own side because he gets left open a lot. Like there's times where guys are going to sag off because I know if I'm playing up on you, you're going to blow right past me. So he's going to have chances to have open threes. I think both things to be true. Like I don't think John Morant's going to be the best player on a championship team, right? Like I think that's obvious. You do get in a bit of a pickle when you say, all right, we could trade him, but what you can get for John Morant, you're going to become a worse team if you trade John Morant, right? Unless you're banging on hitting some draft picks. I don't know what player you're going to get in return that makes you a better team. The Taylor Jenkins thing is interesting too, because I do think Taylor Jenkins is a really good coach. But I also think there's levels for players in terms of like, are you a championship contender or championship? Can you be the best player on a championship team? I think the same thing goes for coaches, right? Like I think we've definitely seen coaches in the past that are great, phenomenal regular season coaches, are great in the first round. They're great at developing, but they're also not that coach to take you over the top, right? Whether you look at Mark Jackson,
JB.
Tibbs has gotten talked about that before. JB Bickerstaff's got talked about that before, where you set a baseline and foundation for a team, but you're not able to take that team from you've built this great culture, you've built this great unit, but there's an obvious ceiling on it, right? And who knows? I think it's a lot easier to realize when a player isn't good enough to be on a championship team. I feel like it can be more difficult to realize that for a head coach, especially this Grizzlies team that's been so banged up over the last couple of years. All the stuff that's going on with John Morant, you've been missing your best player. But Taylor Jenkins could have also been that same boat where this is kind of what you're getting with Taylor Jenkins, where he's a great coach, but is he ever going to be one of those coaches that we're looking at like, oh yeah, he's the reason why this team went from a second round playoff team to all of a sudden they can win an NBA championship?
Now, I don't disagree with you saying in NBA Finals, winning the championship, that's a big expectation. I don't think John Morant can win multiple playoff series and get to the conference finals. I don't think he can do that.
I mean, he came close.
He's still young.
Right?
I think that when you don't have a jump shot, it's fair to say the things that you're saying. And he doesn't have that on a consistent night in, night out basis. But with his upside, with his athleticism, with his ability to get downhill, with his playmaking attribute, I think that it's on him to get better and improve his one strong deficiency. But the thing is, it's hard to just out of nowhere pick up a jump shot. I think that he has the trait that's harder to come by, which is the elite athleticism, the elite ability to get downhill. If he can just put the time in to improve his jump shot, I think that his ceiling is still one of the best guards in the game. He is still one of the best guards in the game.
But it hasn't improved in 6 years.
And I think that's fair. I also think that his ability to stay on the court has not been at its highest.
Well, that's another flaw in him. It's not only that he's a flawed player, but he's also doesn't stay healthy.
I think that you take this year with a grain of salt. Mm-hmm. We know we're moving off of Taylor Jenkins. It doesn't, if we're the organization, We're going to move off Taylor Jenkins. We don't think that he could be the future guy for our team to reach that next level. We have these assistants that we really believe in. We have these 3 players that we really believe can be a strong core for us in John Morant, Desmond Bane, and Jaren Jackson. Jaren Jackson, who's proved to get better every single year. Desmond Bane proving to be one of the better 3-and-D options, one of the better third options in basketball. And we have John Morant, who's shown come playoff time, he can elevate his level of play. The concern with these guys are they've been injured. However, if we can keep these guys on our team, if we can have a new direction offensively, if John Morant can stay on the court, we have a chance to really maximize our opportunity. I just think it's on Ja, it's on Jaren to stay on the court.
Jaren Jackson Jr. has lapped John Morant. He is the most important player for that Grizzlies organization right now. I think that is a player they want to build around the most.
I understand
because
your
of his
sentiment.
offensive development.
I understand
and
your
what he offers on defense.
I don't think he's their most important.
He is.
You could say, how do I say this? It's kind of comparing Mobley to what he means to the Cavaliers. We understand that Donovan Mitchell's their best player, but Evan Mobley, you could argue, is their most impactful because of what he brings on the defensive
John
side.
Morant's not Donovan Mitchell.
I want to say he is because, again,
it's not.
It's hard to come by that athleticism. It's hard to come by that playmaking.
But I'm looking.
He is.
I'm not
but
looking
early
at the
on
traits.
in his
I'm looking
career,
at the
Donovan
production.
wasn't this elite 3-point shooter. He
like
had
by
that.
year 6. No,
I understand, but again,
Donovan Mitchell was never a liability from 3. You don't leave him open.
No, he was.
You leave John Morant open, and you
early in his
live with
career,
3 for
he was
10
shooting 34, 35%, which, but not
on tough shots and volume.
Agreed, and I think that John Morant, he forces himself into some bad opportunities as well.
Players are still going under on screens on him,
which it
they're
makes
not.
sense.
They're not respecting him as a
makes
shooter.
Sense.
To be fair to Ja, in that Warriors series, he played 3 games. He averaged damn near 40.
But
I hear you out. I also don't think
Yes.
he's the guy to take you to an NBA Finals. But the last time he was in the playoffs, he was in that setting in the second round. He balled his ass off.
Of the 2 players whose ceiling is higher, it's John Morant, which is why I look John Morant and Jaren.
If Jaren keeps developing like this offensively, it's him.
I just want to finish this thought. John Morant has shown at his ceiling that he can be on a, let me not say on the level because he's never going to be on that Steph Curry level, but he can perform tit for tat with him. He showed that in a playoff series. He was really going there. He was playing that well. Agreed. He was giving that Warriors defense, which was probably the best, if not second best, at the absolute worst that season defensively, especially when Draymond was healthy. We know his ceiling of what it can be. I think Jaren has gotten better year by year. And I can acknowledge where you're coming from because Jaren has been so reliable for them and he's shown that he's going to put the work in. I think that the high of John Morant is the most important to the Grizzlies because if he can be that, then they can reach their ceiling. If he never reaches that, then the Grizzlies are always going to be stuck in limbo.
I don't think it's the most important to the Grizzlies because this entire year in the offseason was to change their offense to move away from John Morant. And that was an organizational decision. They forced Taylor Jenkins to change the offense. It was the assistant coach's offense that was this offense.
But it hasn't changed the results.
But this is where I was going to
of the Grizzlies.
He's right.
Like the Grizzlies all of a sudden aren't a championship contender. We don't look at them. At least, I mean, Rib did, but I don't think any of us look at them as a conference.
They were just
finals
healthy
team.
and
like,
they were winning games.
They're a scrappy first round team that could win a series.
It didn't change the results, but it's also in due part to the John Morant being unreliable and unhealthy. And I look at every year the Grizzlies have been healthy and they've been great in the regular season. What have they always had? Has always been their flaw? It's been their half-court offense. Yeah. You have a point guard who's a ball-dominant point guard who doesn't generate you good half-court offense. And I think the organization this offseason, I think this entire situation is muddy because it's the organization, they did go to Taylor Jenkins and they did tell him to slash his coaching staff. Mm-hmm. This was the offense of the assistant, not the current interim head coach, the other assistant. Mm-hmm. And now you fire Taylor Jenkins because he went away from that system and started using more pick and rolls, but they only went 6 and 7 when he started doing that. And I don't think Taylor Jenkins should be the Grizzlies head coach. I think if they moved on from him, that's fine. I don't think it's that big of a deal, even though he did a lot for the development of the young players on that team and they moved into a different era. But you have 2 coaches now that are clearly shifting to a different offensive philosophy. Their current interim head coach is pick and roll heavy. Their other coach likes to take advantage of space and moving without the ball and not dribbling. And that led to Ja Morant having the lowest touches this year. And that was an efficient source of offense, but then teams figured it out and teams started knowing how to guard it. But that led to Jaren Jackson having his best offensive season. And I'm looking at how the Grizzlies have made organizational decisions. Their actions show me that they're not even bought in long-term on Ja Morant. Ja Morant is the most marketable star they have. It's one of the biggest stars that they've ever had in Memphis. But with that being said, the on-court productivity, until he improves as a player, that he is still, I think right now, he is expendable for them.
I mean, I think realistically, their issue is they have 2 number 2s. I don't think Ja Morant's number 1. I don't think Jaren's number 1. The thing is, the issue that comes up with this is, at some point, you probably make a choice, especially because the other thing we didn't talk about is Jaren Jackson. Well, he's not going to win D4, it looks like. He would have been eligible for the biggest contract in NBA history, but it looks like he won't be that, so maybe scrap that. But it's going to be very difficult to build a team around Ja Morant as your number 2. This is a guy that's just going to have the ball in his hands too much for him to be a number 2 on offense. You don't want him off ball because he's not going to be able to shoot. But on the other hand, if let's say you do move off Ja Morant and Jaren Jackson's your guy now, I don't know what you think Jaren Jackson's ceiling is offensively. I don't view him as a guy that's like you're running your offense through him, although he's been super efficient this year. You know, he's near 60% true shooting, shooting the 3 ball the best of his career and everything like that. But now your issue becomes, all right, who's our number 1? I think a lot of teams have this issue when you have a couple of number 2s. We'll see what happens with Cleveland this year, especially too, because I feel like they could be in a similar mold, although I trust Donovan Mitchell a lot more in his jump shooting than I do Ja Morant. But yeah, I think Jaren Jackson has shown this year, and I think he needed to show it too, because his offensive game, not that it didn't develop because it has been developing, but this is the first year, or I should say it's been developing at a pace once you include this year where you have a lot more faith in what he can be on offense. But I still don't completely believe, I don't feel strongly either way, truthfully, because I think both of these guys are not franchise stars. But what Jaren gives you defensively, being able to be a defensive player of the year caliber, being able to switch on the perimeter, being able to protect the rim, I would understand choosing him over Ja, because Ja's just going to be really difficult to build around the long term if he's not able to improve his jump shot.
The last thing I'll say, I think their half-court offense was bad. I also think that it was also in due part to their lack there of shooting. When they acquired Luke Kennard, it was a big deal. That was a big deal because he immediately became their best three-point shooter next to Desmond Bane. They really didn't have three-point shooting, and maybe I don't know if that's even the case even this season. Like, they have players that obviously can shoot the 3-ball, and I think that obviously Jaren taking a step into improving his 3-ball, obviously Desmond Bane being healthy, Jalen Wells. I think that there's players that can shoot the 3-ball on this team, but in years past, one of the main reasons why they struggled in half court was because they lack shooting.
We've seen point guards in other offensive situations with not the best space and still generate good offense.
See, but he is still averaging 27. In that season, shot 34% from 3. This is when you thought that we were seeing the trajectory to improve as a jump shooter. The year following drops to 30%, but still averages 26 a game. Ja Morant has shown that he can be that. It's this season. He's working back from missing a full season. This is a down year. No doubt about it. That's an obvious statement. Shooting less than 30% from 3. He's shooting less than 45% from the field. I understand. I think that Ja Morant, in my opinion, gets a pass. They were still winning basketball games while he was struggling. If I'm a Grizzlies fan, I'm happy he's on the court for a majority of games this season.
It's his first year in 2 years, basically.
That's what I'm saying. I think that we need to give him some grace. We've seen how high he can get to. I'm not going to write him off after one season of being his worst since early on in his career. But he's shown that he can be a high-level scorer. He's shown that he can be a great playmaker. It's just going to be a matter of getting back to that on a consistent basis, which, to your point, he's failed to show this season.
He can have great individual stats. I care about what the team offense generates.
But the team itself had a bad offense. Just not great offensive personnel outside of him, and then Bane, who really ascended in year 2, and Jaren, who was inconsistent as an offensive player early on. So what's your
explanation for this year being the year they had the most efficient offense without Ja 100%. The ball?
No, you got to give acknowledgement that, 1, he has struggled, and 2, the rest of the guys around him have definitely elevated their play. And they were hoping that Ja being back would give them that boost, and unfortunately he hasn't given them that.
Because I look at Trae Young, who with the Hawks has never had the best situation. He's always generating the most potential assists in the league. He doesn't even have the best spacing right now, and he still always generates a great offense.
Yeah, I think, okay, if you're Memphis, right, you're living this world where Jaren's your guy, these are pieces you're building around. You move off Ja Morant. What does that look like?
I'm not moving off of Ja Morant.
Oh, okay. What are we doing?
That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying that I'm moving off of Ja Morant. What I'm saying is that I think there's a clear ceiling, and I think right now he has become expendable for Memphis.
Isn't there a ceiling with Jaren too?
Yeah, but Jaren, he's a two-way guy.
I think we're looking at this year's ceiling. This year, Jaren, to me, it's a ceiling. And that's not a knock. I think that's a great player. I think that's a fringe All-NBA player, truthfully. Yeah. He's been amazing. I think that this version of what we're seeing of him being one of the best defenders in the league, mixed with being a really good, to some nights, a great offensive player, this is who Jaren Jackson at his best can be. And if I'm being honest, this version of Jaren Jackson's way better than I ever thought we'd get, especially 2 years ago. And last season, I give him a lot of credit because he was one of the few that actually was healthy for the Grizzlies, and he really ascended last season. I wanted to see that carry over into this year. He got better from last year, but marginally. He's still great. I'm not saying that that's a bad thing.
He's doing it on a team that's winning.
Correct.
And it's not a bunch of BS
exactly.
Around him.
I think that's really what it is, that they're winning basketball games, and he's continuing to play at this high of a level. What we just were anticipating was Ja to translate. Also, want to make sure that I'm being fair. The Grizzlies are slightly above average shooting the three ball this season. They rank 12th in three-point percentage, which is pretty solid. They're shooting around 36% from three. That's very firm. This season, no doubt. But this is the first year in a while that they've had three-point shooting, or I should say mainly in the Ja Morant era, which is why, to your point, it's fair to wonder, when are you going to be the guy that elevates? Mm-hmm. I think that he's just shown in the past that he's a lot better than what he's been this year.
My thing is, I think Ja has become expendable for Memphis, and if this was a decision, because I still have doubts that this decision was driven by Ja, because I think this was an organizational thing. I think they clearly had a pathway of how they wanted to move forward. And for an organization like Memphis that has been on the cutting edge of analytics, they are a huge analytics organization. Ja Morant is not analytics friendly. You have a franchise star that your organization's entire philosophy is kind of against the way this star has his production. Mm-hmm. You know, the great numbers, but the offense isn't there to match that production that he is producing at an individual level. Yep. So I think this entire thing is, we're talking about Taylor Jenkins, but I think the underlying thing of all this is that Ja Morant has become expendable. And that doesn't mean they're going to trade him right away, but it does mean that he is somebody that they're looking at, and they're saying, okay, we got to find different ways on how to improve this roster. And maybe he's not this untouchable player for our organization that we once thought that he once was. And you have to take into account the injury history, the level of play, the regression. I'm not even talking about the off the court stuff. I'm just talking about his on court play and the injuries. That's basically it. And you got to know if you can rely on this guy to, I'm not talking about the finals. Can you consistently be a team that gets out the first round, that maybe gets to the conference finals? Right now, the way we look at Memphis, every team in the West is looking at Memphis like, we hope we played them in the first round. Mm-hmm. We hope we got Memphis, because they feel like they can beat them.